So welcome back to another tutorial. In today's tutorial, I want to focus on bridal makeup. There's lots of different things I want to speak about in terms of what to look for whenever you're going to get a bridal trial, or if indeed you're going to maybe abroad and you're going to have to do the bridal makeup yourself. So the first thing is, I do a lot of brides per year and everybody comes in with the same idea. They come in with maybe pullouts of magazines, they come in with a natural look. Well, there's very few brides that actually, in my opinion, want a natural look whereby they look like they're wearing no makeup. I think a lot of brides want to look like they're at least wearing some definition around the eyes, and it's knowing where to get the balance. Whenever I come to doing a trial, there's a series of different questions I'll ask a bride, and to find out exactly where they lie in terms of how strong they want their makeup to look, especially around the eye area, what sort of feel they want with their makeup, and that should then tie in with the likes of their dress, their flowers, their hairstyle. All of those things play a massive factor. But before we talk about the actual makeup and about doing a consultation and about the right sort of way to proceed with getting the right look for you, I want to make a point of skincare. Make sure whenever you're going to do your bridal trial that you leave at least 3 months before the actual day itself. That way, if there's any sort of things you need to do to get your skin in a better condition in terms of the right sort of cleansers, the right moisturizer, you want your skin to be as radiant, you need to up your water intake, treat yourself to a series of different facials, and remember, make sure that you don't have an extraction facial 2 weeks, a minimum of 2 weeks before the wedding. All of those things need to be put in place. A makeup artist, no matter how good they are, can only do so much. You have to do this for yourself as well. If you've dry skin, you shouldn't have dry skin. It should be something that you're able to manage through the right skincare products, making sure you take your makeup off every night, making sure you use moisturizers that create hydration on the skin. Likewise, if you suffer from oily skin, then there's things you need to put in place to try and train the skin to not produce enough less sebum on the skin. Therefore, your makeup will last better throughout the course of the day. You need to make sure that you're using maybe an anti-oil mask on the skin, something that you can maybe incorporate 2 days before the wedding. All of those things will help with the longevity of your makeup, which ideally is what you want to get out of really good makeup application. So when it comes to makeup application itself, there's a couple of things you need to ask yourself. How strong do you want to go? Do you wear a lot of makeup? You shouldn't look completely different to the way that you normally look, but you should look, I say, a perfected version of what you normally look like. And with that, try to listen to what you want, as opposed to, you'll get lots of opinions from aunts, cousins, friends. All of these people are playing a part of your day, which is fine, but they're also going to impact and give you advice on what you think and what they think you should do. But you have to stick to your guns. You're the person who has to look in the mirror when their makeup's done and feel more confident. You can't look in the mirror and second guess the way that you look and think to yourself, is this too much? Does this look like me? Is it too strong to what I'm normally used to? Of course you're going to look slightly different, and you need to be prepared for that. It shouldn't feel uncomfortable. It shouldn't feel like you're caked in heavy foundation or heavy eye makeup. In this tutorial, I'm going to break it into 3 key stages and 3 key looks that I tend to go with. We're going to start off first of all with a vintage bride. Vintage bride is what I feel those who maybe incorporate lace into their dress, those who are incorporating more of a vintage element to their hair, and you can go maybe 20s, maybe 30s, maybe 40s. Be very specific with the vintage style that you want from your makeup. A lot of people will come in and they'll say, oh, I want a real 1920s. And 1920s to me is quite a strong sort of eye with a dark cranberry lip. And a lot of the times people just see red equaling their vintage look, when there's lots of different eras. So make sure you take a cutout, maybe from a magazine, of something that you see similar. A good makeup artist should look at the picture itself and break down all of the key things that they see within the picture. Ask you questions like, do you wear a strong lip colour? Well, if you don't, for me, I always recommend making sure that you incorporate a strong lip colour for a couple of months beforehand. It needs to bleed. You need to get into the habit of checking your lip colour, reapplying it throughout the course of the day. And yes, it will go on your nose. It will go on the chin. I find whenever you're used to using a strong lip colour, A lot of women will even eat more delicately. They'll get used to touching up after they've had something to eat, and you need to do the exact same. You cannot just have a red lip perfectly applied by your makeup artist on the morning of your wedding, and that makeup artist is not there to keep that maintained throughout the course of the day. So you need to get into that habit. You need to make sure that it's a strong, bold colour that you want, and maybe not just more of a sheer colour to give you the impression of the vintage, so you don't have to go just as extreme. But vintage to me is definitely a little bit more emphasis put on your flicked liner, a little bit more strength put onto the lip colour, and make sure that you look and that you actually really suit a strong lip colour. A lot of people will come to me and maybe they have a very disproportionate lip, and I would find that I would have to really overline the lips, which is fine, and I can send someone out and they'll look great, but that lip needs maintained, especially if you're overlining, and especially if you're not used to doing that for yourself. You need to be able to reapply in the exact same way that it was put on that morning. You maybe see if we're going for a slightly softer option. So with Jane, my beautiful model, with Jane's skin will be slightly drier. So what I done on her skin was I used some moisturizer, some base Eclat, which is the illuminating primer underneath her skin. I used the Makeup Studio Face It Light foundation buffed into the skin. I then set with a little bit of Silk Perfection, and then over the top of the Silk Perfection I used Senna medium press powder. The press powder kind of gives the illumination back onto the skin that maybe the loose powder took away. And then I'm going to softly sculpt the face, and we're going to add some peachiness onto the cheeks. I want to do a soft flick, a little bit of definition into the socket line, soft brows, and a bold lip to complete the vintage look. So let's get started. First thing I'm going to take is some matte bronzer. Again, especially if you're blonde and especially for your wedding day, you want to make sure and push the hairline back out of the way so you get that nice glow, a nice sort of sculpt. I don't want heavy lines. You have to remember this makeup has to do both day and night. A lot of people will up their contour at night time, but this has to look beautiful throughout the course of the day. It has to be in really harsh daylight. And a lot of people think when it comes to complexion, they need to really cake on the foundation, or else it's not going to stand against the pictures. You know, it's your wedding day, it has to work in the pictures. Not anymore. People years ago used to have to put on a lot more makeup because the photographers who were taking the pictures didn't have the same control over the flash of the camera. Therefore, the flash now can be controlled, that it's not going to bleach the person out. Yes, it has to look beautiful in real life. It has to be well balanced in real life, and that's what your photographer is going to be able to capture. So bringing this around the outside with tan as well, which is another being in my life. Whenever I rock up and a bride has decided to go to get her tan done, and I always say in a trial, don't put any tan on your face. Tan up to your neck, but not onto the face. The reason being, tan reacts differently on different skins. For some, it'll dry the skin out. For some, it'll make the skin more oily. If you have dry patches on the skin, it'll catch and cling into those dry patches. But above all, with you getting a little bit more anxious coming up to the big day, you tend to sometimes, your skin can go a little bit strange, and you can take reactions to products you've maybe used before. So it's not worth the risk of taking a reaction maybe to your tan. I had a case where one of the tan companies changed an active ingredient in their tan, and the bride took a massive allergic reaction the day before her wedding, and where she wanted a very soft tinted moisturizer and some concealer buffed into the skin, I had to use a full coverage foundation because there was nothing I could do that was going to completely take away and even the skin without doing that. Be careful along the jawline. It needs to be nice and soft. So no hard edges to your definition from your bronzer. You still want the skin to be nice and glowing. Be careful with SPF as well when it comes to your foundation that you choose to put on. Some foundations, what happens is the SPF doesn't react well if there's flash being used by your photographer, and it can sometimes make the face appear slightly paler. It's not to say people run for the hills then when they see any SPF. You need to almost try it out, but to be safe, you're probably just better staying away from it. But it's not with every foundation. There's certain foundations are worse than others for giving you that sort of bounce back. So just make sure it's a combination that works. So on Jane's cheeks, I want to add a little bit of blusher number 38 from Makeup Studio, just onto the apples. I think these beautiful peachy tones work really, really well. And I think a lot of our skin tones suit this as opposed to too much pink or too much red when it comes to blush. So just build that nicely. Again, if you're worried about longevity, if you're maybe the opposite to Jane and your skin isn't dry, it's actually very oily, and you're really conscious about making sure that your makeup stays in place, you need to make sure that you're on the skincare, as I said. You need to make sure that you're using the likes of anti-shine products, making sure you use an oil-free foundation, making sure your powder sets it really well into place. But you don't want to apply all of those and have it completely mattified, that you're not going to have any radiance. There's a difference between radiance and shine, and unwanted shine at that. So make sure that there's still a beautiful glow to the complexion. Yes, if you're using illumination, maybe keep it just to the C-section at the side underneath your foundation and really mattify the T-zone area. So this is Warm Glow from Senna. I use this a lot for bridal. If you're going to use a highlighter on the skin, I tend to always for bridal use a powder highlighter, because if you're touching your face, people are going to be constantly coming over and congratulating you and kissing you and hugging you. You'll be like, get off the face. You don't want to be using anything that's sticky. Next, I'm going to take a little bit of eye primer, and with my finger apply this all over the whole of the eye, just to take away any discoloration, keep the eyeshadow in place, stop any build-up of oil, and just bring that across the whole of the eye area. Comb the brows up and comb them into place. I want to keep the brows very, very soft and very natural. You can still sculpt, you can still help the brows get a little bit more shape, but you don't want them too intense. I'm going to use a very soft powder through the brows, and I'm almost just sketching where I feel the brows need a little bit more help, as opposed to drawing a really structured brow in place. Differently, you know, it's different if the person wants real structure, if the person wants real drama with their makeup, which I think is fine. You know, if you're the type of person who wears makeup every single day, then it comes to your wedding day and everyone's telling you, you need to go very natural, you need to go very soft, you're going to hate your makeup. You know, you need a refined, beautiful version, a well-blended version of what you'd normally do. A little bit of concealer. I'm lifting now just underneath the brows, just to give a little bit of contrast under the brow. Really, really close to the actual brow hair itself. Soften it into place. Same the other side. First colour I'm going to put across the eyes is a block colour going across the whole of the lid. This is Classy Champagne from Makeup Studio. It's a really beautiful bridal colour. So we're going to put that all over the whole of the lid of the eye. Really simple. So now I just want to kick a little bit of shape into the socket line. With my blending brush, I'm going to use a little bit of Eyeshadow 31. Very, very soft. Starting on the outside corner, look straight for me, Jane. Just bring that through, just to give a little bit more shape to the socket line itself. Let's just do the same to the other side. Just sculpt in our socket line. With a smaller detailed brush, I'm going to take some of the eyeshadow number 31 and just blend that through the lash line on the bottom. Not too far down, just very, very softly. Soften through with the edge of my fingertip. Okay, next I'm going to use Concealor Pencil. This is great at really widening the eyes, making the eyes look nice and bright. So put that right in the waterline, and this is going to lift and brighten underneath. especially when you're using so little makeup underneath. I find sometimes if there's any sort of pink tone left in the inner rim of the eye, it really stands out. So this takes all of that away and is less harsh definitely than white pencil. Okay. Then with a flat brush, I'm going to take some Precious Pearl, which is a white shimmer eyeshadow, and just in this corner here, a very small amount. Just look straight for me, Jane. That's great. So here, just build up that inner corner. Just like that. Okay. Now the main thing, the flick. If you get the flick right, everything else will fall into place. So how do you work out how to do your flick? If you just turn to the side for me. The best way is that I can turn around and explain this, because a flick is different on every single eye shape. The length of the flick, the thickness of the flick, the angle of the flick, it varies from person to person. But the main rules to follow, if you look straight for me, Jane, underneath here, where the bottom of the eye is, almost as if you're going to take a line and draw it straight. That's the angle. The angle of your liner should always be elevated. Now, the thing that stands in the way for some eyeliner is the brow bone. If the brow bone, for example, came too low, if I push the brow bone like this, I cannot draw the line through that part of the skin because the line will just split. So you need to make sure that it doesn't go through it. So if the skin, for example, let's say you were very hooded on the outer corners and push this down, you cannot bring that. So your liner needs to be very, very short and concise. Your liner shouldn't go past where your brow is. So this is where the ratio of your brow is. It's almost to about halfway, especially with bridal. I don't actually like the flick being too long or too extended out. Again, the flick on the top, the thickness, that varies from person to person. It's that you can tell more when you look straight ahead at the person. How much of this lid area can you see when you look square ahead at yourself or if you're doing it on someone? If you see very little space, your liner has to be very, very fine, or else it just looks like a black shadow all over the whole lid. For Jane, she could have it thicker, but for bridal, I do prefer it a little bit thinner. So if you're going to do this for yourself, try this as a trick. Take your angled brush and just a dark shadow before you go in with your gel, or before you go in, and look at this. Look at the side. Let's get your side. So look straight for me. Just here at the corner, we're going to bring this line out. So if you're not sure where you're bringing it, sketch your line. Just a straight line. Make sure you're happy with where your angle is. Always make sure that the line is extending up the way. Make sure the line never comes down or it'll drag the eye down. So once you're happy with that, then do the same to the other side. So once you're happy with your two lines, that'll give you a good indication as how far back to bring both sides. Okay, so next I'm going to put some mascara on, then some liner, and then we're going to do our flicks. Okay, my liner is going to go on just before I put on the lashes. Look down. Okay, so I'm going to put some glue in the back of my hand. So while that dries, make sure when you're choosing your lashes that you choose lashes that are quite soft. You don't want the lashes to be the main thing in your pictures. There's nothing as bad as seeing a soft makeup, but the lashes are huge. So while the lashes are drying, I'm going to take a little bit of lip balm and work it into Jane's lips. I do want to use slightly more matte lip colour because I find that heavy glosses they're too easy to transfer. If you're wearing a veil, all of those things can really impact. So if you're going to use a matte, your lips need to be in good condition. So I suggest even taking your toothbrush the morning of the wedding and just gently exfoliating over the lip line, using a little bit of a lip balm treatment. Put them on first thing and make sure that the lips are nice and relaxed. So I'm taking my pencil. This is number 1 from Makeup Studio, and we're just going to line the whole lip really sharp. So after I've lined and filled in the whole lip with the lip pencil, I'm going to take some of this matte lip colour from Makeup Atelier. So they're durable in Rouge Franc. So let's work from the inside of the lip across the whole way. Blend for me. In this particular colour, I just build up really nice and gently. Such a beautiful true red. Let's do the top as well. So start with the inner section before we go and bring it out towards the lip line. Do your inner sections first. So when the red lip and the liner goes on, a lot of the blush color has been drained away. So I'm just gonna build that back up just on the cheeks, just so everything looks a little bit more balanced. Bring that through. Then with a wee blender brush, use a little bit of the yellow beige. Just underneath, just to lift a wee brightness at the corner. There you have it, your vintage bridal look. So any questions about any of the products, anything you've seen, any of the techniques, feel free to drop a line underneath, and remember to like and share. So see you in part 2.